Nate Burleson. Nate, good morning.
Good morning. Appreciate you having me on. Thank you for the introduction.
Yeah, my pleasure. It's always fun to catch up with you. And we were playing Mike Mitchell's comments earlier in the morning, and I could kind of understand his concern because he's a defensive player and they're cracking down on hits and throwing out suspensions. Do you think that Mike Mitchell has a case to be made there?
Yeah, he makes very valid points. I was talking earlier this year on some of the hits that we've seen and flags were thrown and even guys were fined. In particular, there was a Joe Flacco play. And I was trying to explain to everyone that the intention of the hit never is really appreciated because oftentimes when an offensive player is going down or trying to make a move, he adjusts where the intended target is. So, people might look at a certain play and I think they don't give a guy enough credit for trying to keep his head out of harm's way or even trying not to injure a guy. Some of these hits look really bad, but imagine if you're running at something full speed and about 10 yards away, you decide where you're going to hit the target. About 5 yards away, you lock in. 2, 3 yards away, even a yard away, you're committed. But within a small amount of time, talking about fractions of a second, an offensive player can adjust his body. I can try to duck. I can slide with my feet, slide with my head. I can move all types of ways and put my head or my helmet in harm's way. And it doesn't matter what I do last minute. If the defender is already made his decision, then he looks like the bad guy. He looks like the villain. So I understand what Mike is saying. He said, well, what do you want us to do? Defensively, we're taught at a very young age to see a target hit a target. Now, I get it. You're not supposed to spear. You're not supposed to use your helmet. We get all the new rules. But what I do feel for is the defenders that go out there and try to do it the right way. They try to lean and use their shoulder pads and take their helmet out of it. But what happens is offensive guy panics. He doesn't know where to move. And then he moves his body or his head right in the way where the guy is trying to avoid hitting. And that's when it looks bad. And that defender looks bad. And then there's flags on the field. And then there's fines being given out. And all the while, we're trying to repeat this mantra that we need the game to be safer. We need the game to be safer. So offensively, I can appreciate that they're trying to help us. But, I grew up idolizing my father, who was a free safety, a hard-hitting free safety at that. And I come from the old school. I just feel like, the more you try to protect us, the more you change the game. And we don't need the game to be changed too much, which is, go out there, play some football. And I hate to sound harsh, but the reality is injuries are inevitable, and they're going to happen, and they're unfortunate. We just don't want the malicious ones like we saw in the Pittsburgh and Cincinnati Bengals game.
So I agree with a lot of that, and I think that Mike Mitchell makes a lot of sense in the restrictions that are put on defensive players. The one thing that I would quibble about is the timing of this, considering his teammate Ryan Shazier is lying in a hospital bed, and we don't know if he's going to walk again.
Right.
My heart sinks when I see guys like Shazier suffer those types of injuries. But I'm just a fan. I wonder about you, having played the game as a former player. What's the emotions that run through your mind when you have really, really devastating injuries that happened with Ryan Shazier and you're trying to kind of cope with, as you mentioned, being old school about football?
That was the worst injury I've seen in a long time. It was jarring to see him, make that tackle and then reach for his back, rolled over in his legs, just kind of sit there, almost lifeless in a sense. And my gut was wrenching. I was sitting there with my wife, and I said a prayer. My 7-year-old daughter said, "Hey, Dad, what are you doing?" So I'm praying, and I explained to her what she was seeing. She did 2 prayers, and every day I'm reading the updates and just hoping to get some great news, as if this is a relative of mine. And that's just it. These guys are relatives; they're family. So I understand what you're saying. The timing is off a little bit when you have your teammate who's sitting in the hospital with a very traumatic spine injury, but he's trying to get these things off his chest. And I believe, like in moments of pure raw emotion where you're hurting, the honesty comes out of you. It's just like anything in life. You're in a relationship and something goes bad. That's usually when everybody puts everything on the table. And I feel like at that moment, that's what he was trying to do. Mike Mitchell was trying to basically, just unmask himself and be very transparent and saying, listen, these are the problems. This is what's going on, and this is why, we're going to continue to have issues. But the timing was a little off. then again, as a defender who has to get ready for another week, another game, when can I say it? When is the right place? When do I have the right stage? So what I do hope is that, at some point we can find, a level of consistency and what's a bad hit and what will be flagged and what will be fined and what guys will get suspended for. And then over time, guys can continue to go back to the very basics of football, which is always seeing what you're hitting and removing your head from any hit. Now, there will be freak accidents. Like I said, for those who are listening, you have to understand, if I am trying to take my head out of something and an offensive player moves his body in that direction last minute because he's afraid of getting hit, I could end up if I'm a defender, I could end up injuring my neck because the offensive guy moves the wrong way. So these are things that we've dealt with for a long time, and hopefully we can change it. I don't know how soon it's going to be. We shouldn't be shocked anymore that guys get injured. It's just like you shouldn't be shocked if a guy is a boxer and he has delayed speech when he gets older, or a basketball player has bad knees, hips, and ankles when he gets older, or a pitcher, has elbow problems, shoulder problems when they get older. These are all things that we sign up for. The one thing we just hope is that these freak accidents, they're far in between.
Nate Burleson joins us. Good Morning Football, NFL Network. Tonight we've got Thursday Night Football and a good one, Saints and Falcons. Everyone talks about the Eagles, the Rams, and the Vikings as Super Bowl contenders of the NFC. Do we have to put the Saints in that conversation as well? Are they in your top four?
Yeah, 100%. The defense has played so much better. We were talking about the last couple of years how they were historically bad. And it seems like any team could go in there and put up 400 yards in the air. They can run all over this defense, and they've tightened up the pieces. Even some of the draft picks and guys they brought in are making an immediate impact. They're just different. They're a different defense. That they smother the quarterback. They're flying around from east to west, sideline to sideline. And even though the defensive backs are playmakers. Offensively, though, that's why you got to have these guys in the conversation of the top teams in the league. It's not just about the hot streak. It's about the style in which they're winning. I've seen Drew Brees go out and light up the skies like we've seen him do throughout his career. But what's even more surprising, and I guess more of a relief for Drew Brees, is that they can win games without him throwing a touchdown. I mean, that stat blew me away when we finished the weekend, and I'm looking at the Saints and what they were doing, and I saw that Alvin Kamara and Mark Ingram were having such a great game that Drew Brees didn't need to throw a touchdown. And that should be not only a message to their team that, we're at where we need to be, but a message to everybody else. It's a scary thing that the Hall of Fame quarterback who could throw it with the best of some of the most pinpoint accurate throws we've seen over the last decade doesn't need to use that tool. There's other tools now. And if you haven't paid attention to that duo, if you don't know what that running back room looks like, Alvin Kamara is the reincarnation of Marshall Faulk, and Mark Ingram is having yet another career year busting off tough runs and the long ones. And that's what you need. You need a defense that can stop offenses and make plays when tested in the air. And then offensively, you got to have a quarterback that's capable of throwing, but only if you need him to throw. You'd rather have a running game going into the postseason because you're going to face these explosive offenses. You're going to face these top-tier quarterbacks. And what do you need to do? Control the clock, keep them guys on the sideline.
You bring intellect, you bring energy to the TV 6 days a week, but I think your greatest virtue is versatility, because I saw you on Good Morning Football yesterday in overalls, shirtless, and then I see you on Sundays, and I work for CBS. I know shirtless and overalls doesn't play around the CBS executive, so I don't know if you could somehow figure out a way to bring the shirtless overalls to Sundays, but I'm telling you, the versatility, that's where your strength really lies, my friend.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Listen, we try to have fun in the morning. 5 days a week, we're on for 3 hours of TV. We try to tell every single football story you hear in every single other place in a way that's packaged funny and engaging. And, people are really taking to it. I think it took a while for people to kind of take us seriously. But even within the funny segments and us going on our rants and dressing up in costumes, there will always be football nuggets and football knowledge, within those things. So thank you. I appreciate that, man. I'm going to keep trying to bring the versatility. And I got the backpack filled with a whole bunch of overalls. I'm going to try to bring them out one day and surprise Coach Cower and JV. We'll see how it goes.
Good day of playoff charades, too, today on Good Morning Football on the NFL Network. Nate Burleson, NFL Network analyst. See you Monday through Friday. Good Morning Football, 7 a.m. Eastern Time. Tonight, Thursday Night Football continues. Saints, Falcons, NBC, NFL Network, Amazon Prime Video. As always, buddy, thanks so much, Nate.